Hey little warriors, Anthea here. So this week or next week we're all talking about our why, and I was just at a 2-day retreat this weekend, and they talked about their why, which was really great. And the reason why we decided to start with the why is because your why, when you hold your why so closely to your heart, it will drive you through the really difficult times. It will help you to get out of the mud when you feel stuck. It will remind you why you're doing all of this work in the first place. And at times the journey can be hard and long and challenging, and there are peaks and valleys. And when you're in those valleys, it's really important to remember your why. So having like a vision board or an intention or something that you can look at or walk past, or something that reminds you of your why. And so I want to talk a little bit about my why, and my why is in my face all the time because it is on my face. So see this muscle here, this contracted muscle up here. This is the reason. This reminds me every day why I do what I do. And my realization around what kind of work I wanted to do came to me, for those of you who don't know my story, it came to me almost 4 years ago when I was diagnosed with a condition called Bell's palsy. And I'd gone into hospital to have my second daughter Sophie, and the night before I was meant to come home, I woke up in the middle of the night and I took a sip of water and it all fell out of my mouth. And I quickly picked up my phone and reversed the camera to see what was happening, and the whole left side of my face was completely paralyzed. And I got up and I went to the bathroom and turned the light on, and I was completely mortified by what I was looking at. And I thought I had a stroke. And I called the midwife in, and she was just standing there staring at me, and I go, "What is wrong with my face?" And she says, "I don't know." And I'm like, "Well, can you go get the head midwife?" And when she came back, she goes, "Look, I think it's a condition with Bell's palsy. Don't Google it. I'm going to go call your doctor." And I Googled it, and the results, the information I found wasn't good. It was facial paralysis that occurs because your cranial nerve becomes inflamed, and some people begin to recover after 2 weeks. They make a full recovery within 2 weeks, and others it takes months and some years, and some don't recover at all. And I thought to myself, I'm going to be that person who recovers within 2 weeks, for sure, guaranteed, no problem, we got this. And she came back, she goes, "It's Bell's palsy, here's some steroids. You're going to need to go get some antivirals when you get sent home tomorrow." So I was like, cool. So my doctor came to see me the next day. Hi, Amanda. And I waited all day for my doctor to come and visit me. Absolutely mortified because I didn't know what was going on for me. And him and a physician came back to my room. And the physician looked at me and he said, "Is your tongue affected?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's a bit numb." He goes, "Well, it's probably going to take you a lot longer to recover than other people." And he said, because the physician came to check out my face, to see what condition it was in. And because my nostril had collapsed, my eye was wide open, my mouth was drooped, like everything was literally paralyzed. He said to me, "We can sew your eye shut if you like to prevent damage." And in that moment, I think because I was just in a complete state of shock, not only because of what had happened to me, but because he was suggesting that I sew my eye shut to prevent damage because I couldn't close my eye. It was like in that moment, I thought to myself, is this guy effing kidding me right now? There is no way I'm going to sew my eye shut to prevent damage. I will find a way to keep my eye closed. And it was in that moment that I decided that I wasn't going to hand over my healing journey to anybody. I wasn't going to put my healing in the hands of the doctors. And that is what I did. I I found ways to heal myself. I found practitioners to help me heal. So anyway, so I left the hospital the next day. That night, I left the hospital and I went home with my newborn baby, my paralyzed face, my 20-month-old and my husband, completely petrified as to what awaited me, because it wasn't just my face. They also told me that I needed to go get a scan to rule out brain tumors, because that is a cause of Bell's palsy, amongst other things. So the next day I went to go get a scan to rule out brain tumors, and I remember feeling completely broken inside. You know, I'd had a cesarean. I couldn't walk properly because I had to be very gentle with my body. I was on an extreme amount of medication because of the steroids, the painkillers from having the cesarean, I remember walking in to have that scan and I felt dead inside. I was thinking about death. I was thinking about who the hell is going to take care of my children when I die if I have brain tumors. And so I went in and I had my scan, and a few days later I got the results and they were all clear. They're like, Anthea, you're all good. You don't have brain tumors. And in that moment I knew that this Bell's palsy, this facial paralysis, was a blessing. And I felt grateful for it, because I knew that if I had brain tumors, I was going to be on my way to fighting a battle I probably wouldn't win, because I don't know anyone who's survived brain cancer yet. All of the people that I've known who've had brain cancer have unfortunately passed away. So I decided, with my half paralyzed face and my newborn baby and my 20-month-old, that I was going to be grateful for everything in my life. And that is what I did. I basked in the time that I had with my children, and then I also spent a lot of time away from them seeking therapies that could help me heal. And I was very unsuccessful. Every person that I called to find out if they had experience with Bell's palsy had no experience with Bell's palsy. They're like, well, we might be able to help you, but we don't really know that much about it, so we can't guarantee anything, but you're welcome to come in and try. And I tried everything. I went to see a physiotherapist, a chiropractor, I went to Bowen therapy, I went to a kinesiologist, I went to everything under the sun. And I had to practice patience, because I was told repetitively that nerves take a really long time to heal. And so I remember going to see a neurologist. I was like, right, I'm going to go see a neurologist, because that's the person who knows about nerves and the brain and all of that stuff, and he will give me the answers that I need. So I went to go see a neurologist, certain that I was going to get the answers that I sought. And when I went in to see him, it was one of the most, soul-crushing experiences that I had, because I went in there hopeful. I was positive that I was going to heal from this thing, and I'd already set the intention that I was going to find a way to heal regardless of what the doctors told me. And I was really hopeful to see this neurologist, but when I went in to see him, he tested me for multiple sclerosis, because that's another reason why you can get Bell's palsy. And he asked me to move my face like this and move my face like that. And then he told me his analysis, which was, you have stage 5 Bell's palsy. Come back in 3 months if you haven't recovered. He said to me, you breastfeeding? I said, yes. He's like, And then he said to me, you need to go see a speech therapist. And I said to him, there's nothing wrong with my speech. Why do I need to go see a speech therapist? I sound like I've had a stroke, but I can still talk perfectly fine. And then he sent me on my way. So it crushed me, because I was really hoping that he was going to give me answers, and he was going to tell me about the nerves, that I could heal, that I guess I was looking for hope in all of the wrong places. And but in that time when my face was paralyzed, I kept on getting Louise Hay's voice in my head going, you were healing, you were healing. And I remember reading her book when I was 15. And so I started to imagine what it would be like when I would be able to move my face again, and I would be able to smile in a photo with my children, and where there was extreme fear that I would be stuck like that for the rest of my life, because some people don't heal from it, I somehow would find a way to override the fear and continue to have that positive mindset and think about how grateful I was that I didn't have brain tumors, and think about how grateful I was that I had a husband and 2 babies that were beautiful, and a home and clean air to breathe and clean water to drink. And like I found gratitude in everything that I could possibly find. And I was fortunate enough to meet a homeopath, an 80-year-old man who gave me that hope that I was looking for. And I called him up, and I remember saying to him, someone suggested him, and I called him up and I'm like, hi, do you help people with Bell's palsy? And he's like, yep, I do. And I was like, oh, well, what do you do? And he's like, well, love, he goes, you come in, I'll give you the medicine and you'll get better. And I won't stop giving you medicine until you get better. And I couldn't get to him fast enough. And I remember when I went to see him, he worked out of this dark room in this old shop, and the walls were full of all of his different potions and medicines, right? And he was asking me questions, and as he was asking me questions, he was making this little potion for me. And I call it a potion because when I drank it, 30 seconds later, I began to feel like a river running through my face. And that was the first time in 7 weeks that I had any sensation in my face at all. And he instilled so much hope in me that I began to emotionally feel better. And he gave me a whole bunch of medicine and none of it worked. And I went to see him a second time, and he gave me another bunch of medicine and none of it worked again. And it was the night before Christmas, or a week before Christmas, and he sent me a Christmas card, and he said, Merry Christmas, mate, this is for you. And it had 7 bags in it, all with different medicines in it. And he said, I want you to try each one until you run out. And it was when I got to the 3rd bag that I took those pills. They were these tiny little homeopathic pills. And the next morning I woke up, because every morning I would wake up and I would try to move my face and it wouldn't move. And this morning I woke up and I remember moving my mouth, and it like flickered like a flick, like the tiniest little flicker. And I jumped out of bed and I ran to the mirror, and I could see the corner of my mouth just flickering. And I knew that that was the beginning of my healing. And that was 3 months in. So I was paralyzed for 3 months before I saw any signs of recovery. And it was a slow recovery. It was a really, really slow recovery. And it would start and stop. And I knew that every time it would stop, I needed to look at what my mindset was doing, look at my beliefs. And I worked with an acupuncturist who I called my Mr. Miyagi, like from the movie Karate Kid. He was my Mr. Miyagi, because when I would go see him, he would smash my mindset. He would do acupuncture on me, but it was all about my mindset and my perspective. And he showed me at how I was living in such a negative way before, at how I was perceiving things and situations in my life with a limited mindset, not a growth mindset. And he opened me up to have more healing. So when I was working with him, I knew that I had to share my knowledge with people. I knew that there were so many people suffering, and I wanted to help them. And so I decided that I was going to use my psychotherapy diploma, all of my spiritual knowledge, all of my personal development stuff that I had done for the last 20 years, and I was going to begin to help people. And I designed a course called Reclaiming Your Power, because I felt like that was the journey that I'd just been through. I felt like I had been reclaiming my power, that I was reclaiming my power by healing myself, by healing my mindset, by changing my mindset and changing my perspective. Because for my whole life, I'd seen people give their power away to doctors and give their power away to other people and not fight for what they really wanted. And so I made it my mission to find a way to support people to change their mindset, heal their inner child, change their perspectives, and begin to create a life that they want to live. that lights them up, that, you know, ignites that spark in their heart. And that is my why. My why is because I don't want people to suffer the way I suffered. I want people to know that there are options for them, that there's a way out, that they can change anything in their life that no longer serves them, anything that they're not happy about. And this little muscle on my face that simply will not relax because I was paralyzed for so long. My face has a lot of internal damage, and it took me a lot of treatment and a lot of pain, excruciating pain, to unstick everything, to undo all of the damage that was done. And I'm still not 100%. I'm about 90% recovered. I can't raise my eyebrow to save my life. There's parts of my mouth that I can't move, but I am so grateful that I have healed this much. And this little muscle, which should have contracted by now, should have learned how to relax, it hasn't. But this thing reminds me constantly about what I went through. It reminds me why I do this. And I believe I have found a way to help people. And so that is why I do what I do. And at times, when the journey is long, and there are times where it is hard, this thing reminds me why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I've been really blessed in the last 6 months to have received so many beautiful messages of gratitude at random times, and those messages always come through at the right time. So when I'm having a bad day or a low day, or if I slip into victim mentality, I will get this beautiful message from someone that I've supported or helped at a random time when I need a beautiful message from someone. And it's the universe, it's the angels reminding me why I'm doing what it is that I'm doing. And so that is my why. I also wanted the thing that probably sticks out the most throughout all of this was when my 20-month-old daughter, when I was sick, my 20-month-old daughter, she came up to me and she would just stroke the side of my face, and she would go to me, "Oh, mama." And she would like kill me when she would do that, right? She'd be like, "Oh, mama." But then she started to copy me. She started to smile with her mouth drooped, and talk with her mouth drooped, and smile with only half of her face. And I knew that everything that I did, my children were copying